But the note written in Romanian, the stalking at night to appease his thirst, the dirt in the shoebox, the stories of demons at the plant where he was found. That is a vampire rabbit.
Hey gang, Uncle Todd and Sonny here, and for this year's Easter film, we are looking at an adaptation of a children's book. Actually, a book that I enjoyed back when I was in, I believe, 6th, maybe 7th grade. Bunnicula. Now, the book's title was Bunnicula, A Rabbit Tale of Mystery. But the adaptation changed it to Bunnicula, the Vampire Rabbit, kind of giving the whole thing away. And it was made into an animated special by Ruby Spears, a very popular animation studio. Did a lot of Saturday morning cartoons. They did a version of Superman, and Goldie Gold in Action Jack was one of theirs, and I believe Thundar the Barbarian. It features some well-known voice actors. You have Jack Carter and Howard Morris, who did a lot of Hanna-Barbera voices. And you also have Alan Young, who's probably best known as Wilbur on Mr. Ed, the show of a talking horse. This is a one-off. It was an adaptation of the first book in the series. James Howe wrote 7 books in the series. Bunnicula was not always in the book. There were a couple that were set at a kennel, in which the two main characters of Harold the dog and Chester the cat would be staying there and get into some mystery solving there. But later, in between 2016 to 2019, for 3 seasons and 104 episodes, they did an animated series on Cartoon Network and later played on Boomerang. But this one was a one-off special from 1982. And some changes between the book and the show, but we'll get to those after we look at the episode here. And we open up in a small town, being narrated. The story's narrated by Harold, as it is in the books. And the owner, Mr. Monroe, works at a food processing plant, and there's been a lot of really strange accidents happening.
Check with research about the latest developments they have. Look out! This accident was too close, Monroe.
Too close indeed. Wonder what caused it.
Just that support rope was chewed through, Monroe. Now, I don't know if it's ghosts or what's causing these accidents. But as of now, the World Cove food processing plant is closed.
A chewed through rope. Sounds serious. Unfortunately, this is one of those towns where there's only one industry, and it's that plant. And without that plant, everybody's out of work. Well, as Mr. Monroe breaks the news to his family, his sons make a discovery outside the plant.
Toby and Pete had found a shoebox in some tall weeds. And in it was a rabbit. Just a cute, fuzzy little bunny rabbit. Fast asleep.
Aww, he's a cute little rabbit. He's got some interesting markings on him. On the back, looks like a little cape. And he's got a little thing there. And his teeth don't look like the front teeth of a cat. They look more like little tiny, cat, a rabbit. Oh, and there's a note written in a strange language along with the rabbit.
Well, maybe they couldn't read the note, but I could. There's a lot of Russian wolfhound in my veins. It said, "Take good care of my baby."
Russian wolfhound. That's convenient. The only word they can make out on the note is Bunnicula. Hey, that's just like Dracula. That must be his name. So that's his name. And the Monroes decide yes, the boys can adopt the rabbit. And they head over to a local store to get some food for the rabbit.
Sleep? He's not asleep. He's gone. Hey, Mom, the rabbit got away.
Uh-oh. A rabbit loose in a vegetable store. That could be serious.
We looked all over for that little rabbit until I found him atop a bin of tomatoes. At least I thought I did.
Oh, I think we know how this is going to end.
Look what you kids have done. That dog of yours, I'll...
I really needed this tonight, too.
Well, of course the Monroes have to pay for all that. And after they leave, the stock boy finds an odd tomato amongst the produce.
I just came across some of these in the bins. I never saw a white tomato before.
Neither have I. It's like all the juice was just drained out of it. I wonder what could have caused this.
Well, getting home, we, the audience, are introduced to Chester, doing what he usually does, and the family has an important discussion.
I'm keeping the bunny in my room. I found Bunnicula. He sleeps in my room. You can keep smelly old Harold in your room.
At least I don't wear the same socks for 3 days in a row.
Well, the mom settles the argument. Bunnicula stays out in the living room. Once Chester gets a look at Bunnicula, he is immediately suspicious, just like a cat. No offense.
Tell me again about the note. Tell me again.
We found it with the rabbit. It was in Romanian, and it said...
Romanian. Romania is where Transylvania is, and Transylvania's where Dracula is from. It's all in this book I read.
Harold, of course, scoffs at all this talk of Dracula and Transylvania. It's just a rabbit. Well, Chester decides to keep an eye on him that night, and he saw Bunnicula get out of his box, which has dirt in it, and sneak into the kitchen. Harold again thinks, that was probably just from Mr. Monroe, and you were half asleep. That is until the mom calls the family into the kitchen.
Tomato! But it's all white. And there's no juice left in it.
No juice in it. Like someone went into the refrigerator last night and sucked it all out like a vampire.
Pretty mysterious. Well, over the next few days, more and more vegetables in the house keep turning up white and drained of juice. And then it starts happening to vegetables gardens in around the neighborhood. Well, Chester decides to do more research about vampires with some more books in the family's library. And then he becomes convinced they are all in danger from this vampire rabbit. So he convinces Harold that they need to stay up all night in shifts so that they can watch to see if he goes and where he goes. And Chester has got a secret weapon he's found from the books.
What's that I smell? It smells like garlic.
It is garlic. It says in that book I read that garlic keeps vampires away.
You keep that stuff on, and you keep everyone away.
Unfortunately, Chester gets too engrossed in his book, and Bunnicula sneaks out. Waking up Harold, they chase him over to a neighbor's yard, accidentally setting off a burglar alarm that the neighbor set up because someone's been draining his vegetables of juice. We get a little glimpse of mob mentality.
White, and there are rabbit tracks around it.
The only rabbit in town is the one at the Monroes.
Yeah, Bunnicula. The one whose name sounds like Dracula.
Dracula?
Dracula? Hey, it makes sense.
So, working themselves up into a mild irritation, they storm over to the Monroe house. Chester and Harold race back to the house where they find Bunnicula's already back in his box. Whew, close one. And then Mr. Monroe has to deal with the mob.
That rabbit of yours is a vampire. He's been turning all our vegetables white.
And he caused all those disasters at the food processing plant.
Yeah.
Food processing plant too, huh? Wow. But they had not dealt with Mr. Monroe's reasoning powers.
What would you do if someone woke you up at 1 a.m. to tell you there was a vampire rabbit in your house?
Well, I guess I'd think they went bananas.
But like that, it does sound rather silly. But it doesn't matter. Fearing for Bunnicula, Harold scoops him up, and he and Chester race out of the house, whereby the villagers, with their lighted flashlights, chase them to the nearby swamp.
We went this way, across the stream.
You know, I just wish they would have had some lit torches instead of the flashlights. It just would have made the whole Frankensteinian universal monster thing really work for me. Anyways, as they get chased, they come upon a pipe, which they climb into, and this leads them into the factory. And Harold makes an interesting discovery.
It's where the drain pipe was gonna lead.
This must be the basement of the food processing plant.
And we aren't the only ones who've come through this pipe either. These footprints are wet.
Wonder what those are prints of.
I smell what I think I smell. I know what caused all the accidents that closed this plant.
What?
Them!
I'm shocked.
Wolves!
You're doomed. You're all doomed.
This is not good.
Just because something isn't good doesn't mean it's bad.
No, Lon, I think it's bad. Anyway, they get chased around the factory until Harold and Chester get separated from Bunnicula and end up locked in a closet. And so they don't get to see what happens. So, he is a vampire rabbit. Well, Harold and Chester now find that the door is unlocked, just as mysteriously as it locked. And they come out to see the wolves are all in that massive canister and Bunnicula is just sitting there by the door. Well, the alarm blings the police, who find the wolves. The mystery is solved. Plant can reopen. And as for why all the vegetables keep getting drained of juice, well, Miss Monroe, showing a bag of moldy lettuce, thinks he has the solution.
Has either of you bothered to feed Bunnicula?
I thought you were gonna feed him. Why should I feed him? You found him.
You were both responsible. If you're going to have pets, you have to take care of them.
Yeah, feeding him. And as for the drained vegetables, the mom speculates he was probably so weak that all he could do was just suck the juice. And so we end on a lesson of responsibility, a good thing to tell kids. And Chester realizes that he was mistaken, and Bunnicula is just a rabbit, not a vampire. And we end on a happy note. One thing I've always wondered about this, and in the book when I first read it back in junior high, why was the cat worried? If the rabbit's only draining vegetables of juice, why would he think that people would then be attacked? I mean, he doesn't seem like very smart, you know. Yes, I know cats are smart. I'm just saying this cat was not smart. Okay, he can read, and that's a point in his favor. Anyway, there's a vast difference between the book and the show. The book does not have the plant closing, does not have the neighbors storming the house demanding the rabbit, and there isn't the whole thing with the wolves. The plot of the book is mostly Chester using different attempts to prove that Bunnicula is a vampire. And unfortunately, my favorite part of the book is not included in this. At one point in the original work, Chester had read that you kill a vampire by pounding a stake through its heart. So he gets Harold to hold he gets Harold to chant some prayers or something, while he swipes a beefsteak out of the fridge, throws it over Bunnicula, and starts pounding on the meat to drive it through his heart. That was my favorite part of the book. They even had an illustration of it. It's just too funny. But as it is, it's a pretty good little kids show. The series that came later, Chester and Harold knew Bunnicula was a rabbit vampire, and they would get into all kinds of crazy adventures, and Bunnicula would use his vampire powers to save him, much like he did in this one. And yeah, a lot of really good jokes for kids. You you got the slapstick of the pumpkins, and there's a bit of a slapstick in the chase where one wolf is chasing Chester on a conveyor belt. And fun stuff like that. And as a whole, it's a nice little family film everybody can enjoy. And maybe for very young kids, for Halloween, they might like Bunnicula. But I personally prefer the book because that's when I first came upon it, and I think they could have just kept the actual plot of the book, but it didn't have a lot of action like this has, with the chase through the swamp and the wolves and everything, and then the mystery of the plant shutting down. But it's okay. It's not one of my favorite holiday. Well, it wasn't even. It was released in January instead of October. But yeah, it's just okay. As I said before, I much prefer the book. The book, for me, is way funnier. Especially with the running gag of Harold attempting to swipe the kids' cupcakes that they get for snacks. Anyways, that's all there really is to say about this one. Please hit like, share, and subscribe. And stay after the credits for my favorite scene.
The vampire turns into a bat and stalks his prey. Then when he sights it, he attacks. Meow.